Welcome back to MLW Vault. I'm your host, Balin. Thank you so much for tuning back in here. We bring you our third series preview now, as we are going over the upcoming series in MLW between the Downtown Diamondbacks and Western Wildcats, a classic matchup that has had a ton of history over the past couple years. Jimmy Knorp and Kyle Schultz, a GOAT debate. I think Kyle's number one by a fair margin. Jimmy is pretty significantly behind there. We will break down everything for this series in this upcoming episode, including projected lineups, starting pitching matchups, standings check-ins, storylines / what's up for grabs, and my official prediction at the very end. But before we do get into that series preview, we're going to break down and analyze the last Friday's series between the Midwest Mallards and Great Lakes Gators. Definitely a lot to talk about. We'll do that later. But before we get started, let's jump quickly into the Around the League segment for news around MLW. In the video between the Mallards and Gators, in the intro, Kyle announced one of the 2024 Special Series locations, and the Downtown Diamondbacks and Midwest Mallards will be facing off at Lone Depot Park, home of the Miami Marlins in Florida. It's going to be the first Special Series for MLW to be played in Florida. It's going to be at a major league ballpark, which is super awesome. Their first ever time playing at an MLB park. Not their first time. They've actually played in two football stadiums, played in Mercedes-Benz and SoFi. But this one is a baseball park in Miami, Lone Depot, home of the Marlins. So that is the first Special Series. That is going to be the end to slate 2. So you don't have to wait a super long, actually, before that one. As you know, we just saw the Mallards play the Gators, and the next time the Mallards take the field will be at Lone Depot Park. So pretty excited about that one. So that leaves 3 regular season unannounced Special Series, which are the Cobras versus Wildcats, Magic versus Predators, and then Gators versus Diamondbacks again. So those 3 have the location for those 3 have yet to be announced, but Kyle said they are to be announced soon. So that is all the news from around the league. Without further ado, let's jump into the last series recap between the Mallards and Gators. What's next? So the Midwest Mallards and New Look Great Lakes Gators faced off at the Meadows for a set of 3 games, with the series outcome being Mallards 2-1 in a series comeback here. So we go game by game recapping. In game 1, the Great Lakes Gators started off 1-0 with a 1-0 win in extra innings. It just went to the 4th. The Mallards had no runs off 2 hits. The Gators had 1 run off 2 hits. For the Gators offensively, their rookie debut, Jeremy Adams, went 1 for 2 total at the plate. Jason Chadwick went 1 for 5 in their 2 hits. And on the mound, Sawyer BN made his official Great Lakes Gators debut on the rubber. He threw a gem. He pitched 4 full innings, 0 earned runs, got the win on the mound, and struck out 7 in his outing. So BN very dominant against a really good Mallards offense. He did not give up a run in 4 innings. And Robles started the game for the Mallards. Of course, he ended up losing it. But offensively, Jordan Robles went 1 for 3, and Colm went 1 for 2 in their 2 hits. So pretty quiet game 1. First game of the season to go into extra innings, but the Gators were able to get it done off a walk-off walk to Chris Cheatham. So a little bit of control issues from Robles there at the end, although he was like bases, I think in game 1, his bases loaded with nobody out. Then he struck out 2 and then walked Cheatham. So only so much you can ask from Robles, but he cannot get the win on the mound after their slow offensive performance. So Gators take game 1, 1-0. In game 2, the Mallards act as the home team, and they win this one 1-0. Gators 0 hits, off of course 0 runs in this one. Then the Mallards 1 run off 3 hits. On the bump for the Ducks, Preston Colm, a gem, a near perfect game. He threw 3 innings, 0 earned runs, got the win with 7 strikeouts and 1 walk. And that 1 walk to Jeremy Adams, if he would have struck out or recorded an out for Jeremy Adams, Preston Colm would have thrown a perfect game. So he was 1 walk away from a perfect game in game 2. And then at the plate, Robles went 2 for 2 with a home run. Coughlin got a hit. Then the Gators, nothing to highlight in this one. Jeremy Adams got the start. I'll talk about the Mallards offense, but the only reason they really won this game, because we don't know how it would have went down if we went into extra innings, but Aiden Richard in right field for the Gators. Robles hit a ball that was definitely staying in the park, and then Aiden Richard went up to go catch it, bounced off his hands, and went over the fence, and that ended up being that one run to win it for the Mallards in the end. So 1-0 Mallards off a defensive blunder for the Gators, as that evens up the series at 1. Game 3. A similar score. The Mallards win it 1-0. They get 1 run off 2 hits. Gators do not score off 3 hits, and they have an error. For the Ducks, offensively, Robles, first of all, on the rubber, pitched 3-0, 0 earned runs with a win on the mound and 6 strikeouts. Super solid outing for him. And then Jorgensen got his first hit, and Robles as well got a knock. So those were there. They only had 2 hits off this one, but did end up scoring a run. Then for the Gators, being on the rubber through 3 innings, 1 earned run with 9 strikeouts and 4 walks. So kind of a little control issues there in game 3, but still had 9 strikeouts, which is incredible. And then Bean helping himself out at the plate, went 2 for 3, and then Chadwick went 1 for 3 as well. So Mallards win the series 2-1. Every single game finishes with a final score of 1-0. So a pitcher's duel throughout the entire game. So let's go into analysis here. First, talk about the Midwest Mallards. So this was, in all sense of the word, an uncharacteristic series win. They got the job done, which at the end of the season, we're not going to, stress about, how they looked during the series against the Gators, because they got 2 wins at the end of the day, which was the only reason they went to show up, was to get wins. So they got the job done, but it was very uncharacteristic for what we expected from the Mallards. Their offense was extremely underwhelming. Robles led the way with 4 hits, which is no surprise. But outside of that, there was very, very little production. Brennan Jorgensen, the new addition, Tommy Coughlin, they looked very behind this whole series. I think Tommy had 1 hit, I think. He even ended up subbing himself out late in game 3 for Matt Carrington, I believe. So, Tommy, not a great start after how good he looked in spring training. Brennan Jorgensen, I don't think he reached until game 3. So definitely a little bit slow, but I'll talk about the Mallards offense later. Pitching-wise, though, they looked fantastic. Granted, they were facing the Gators, which isn't, best offense in the league. But Robles looked super solid. He split his games, got 1 win, 1 loss. But Colm, in my mind, last series for the Eagles and Magic, I said that Blade Walker was my MVP. I'm pretty close to giving it Preston Colm. I mean, obviously, Jordan Robles did more, but Colm was my bright spot this series. He was, of course, 1 walk away from that perfect game. He shut them down on the mound, didn't give up a hit. And I mean, if he would have not walked Jeremy Adams, then he would have the 11th or 12th perfect game in MLW history. So super, super solid for him. That second arm for the Mallards is a super good call. I mean, even if Robles splits this next series for the Mallards and then Colm again gets another win on the mound, I don't think this team is that far from throwing in Preston Colm starting game 1, just seeing if he's really that untouchable. But overall, for the Mallards, so after today, I think it's safe to say the Mallards are not the best team in the league. I think at the end of the Slate 1 power rankings, they definitely won't be number 1. And I think they will get in their groove very quickly. And I mean, I think once this offense really meshes together and kind of clicks, they can quickly grow into the best team in the league. And why I think that is because their next series that the Mallards play is against the Diamondbacks. Now, the last 3 times these 2 teams have met, 2 in the regular season, 1 in the 2022 NLCS. In the regular season, the Mallards have them beat 6-0. Their last, 2 regular season series meetings, the Mallards swept them twice. For the past 2 seasons, the Mallards have always had one day where they get swept and then they sweep a team 3 out of their 5 series they play. And it always seems to be the Diamondbacks. So if history does end up repeating itself, then the Mallards should be just fine. If they get a sweep, this team is 5-1 and they are off and rolling to what is my World Series pick. So Mallards, not worried for them. Pitching looked great. Once they figure out on offense, this team is going to be dangerous. Moving on to the Great Lakes Gators. So, off the top of my mind, I just want to say, not looking at the results, I honestly loved the vibe that the Graders played with today or last series. I think Sawyer Bien was a major spark that they were missing for like the past 2 to 3 seasons. And I also think that Chris Cheatham has found, his role as like mainly that manager. He'll take at bats here and there. He subbed himself in game 2 or 3, but Cheatham, I think, I think he's going to be a really good manager. Honestly, I think he is. I liked starting BN in games 1 and 3. I know that's what they told him when they traded for him, and I also like Jeremy Adams starting game 2. So I've said all year when I talk about the Gators is that I think this team is going to show a lot of promise than what they've seen in the past, but they're not going to make the postseason just because of how good the National League is and how they honestly might have the 3 best teams in the league in the Gators. In the Diamondbacks, Eagles, and Mallards. So it's tough. If they were in the American League, it'd be a very, very different situation for them. I think they could be capable of making the postseason at that point. But anyway, so talking more about the results, it's definitely a little negative because every single game was close. Like they kept it very close all series, but when you look at the numbers, it was not a great series for them. So in when you big picture want to come into a 3-game series, I think in my mind you want to come away with at least 5 to 6 runs scored per series. It's like about 2 per game. I think, okay, maybe that's a little bit of stretch. Maybe 5 runs a series, I think, is a good goal. The Gators scored 1 run all series, and it was off a walk. So it's not even like a true earned RBI off a hit. So 1 run all series for the Gators. In my mind, it was a little expected because, they're facing arguably 2 of the best pitchers in the league. And of course, I think with how many changes they made and how many new guys they brought in, that it takes time to just mesh together and really click. So, BN had, his same stuff at the plate. He will get a couple good hits, but also have followed up with really, really bad chases. And then, also offensively, Jeremy Adams nearly had a series-winning walk-off. As I didn't even talk about the ending in Game 3, but it was a pretty poetic ending almost, as Brendan Jorgensen against his old team snags a walk-off home run, which would have won the series for the Gators. So Jorgensen gets the snag against his old team, starts off with a series win. But where was I? So anyway, offense, very slow. Give it a little bit of time. Their next series they play is the Eagles, so it's going to probably get even more difficult for them just because I feel so bad that they play in the National League, but offense was a little slow, but expected. So nothing super shocking there. On the rubber, I was pleasantly surprised. Bien had disgusting movement. He looked awesome. And, in kind of big picture, like I talked about how they scored 1 run all series, they held, in my mind, the best offense in the league to 2 runs in a series, which is insane. If you hold the Midwest Mallards to 2 runs in a 3-game series, I don't know how you don't win the series just because their offense didn't show up. So, pitching is a bright, bright spot um, uh, for the Gators here. I definitely liked Sawyer Bien more than Jeremy Adams, but again, it was Adams' first career series, and he needs a lot more time and a lot more innings before we truly grade him. So, I think Cheatham should definitely exercise a third arm before they're in a pickle and don't have that third guy that's giving first pitching experience. Obviously, I hope that Aiden Richard can be that guy for them, although his pitching stuff might not correlate. But then again, Chris Cheatham can still step up on the plate. He threw, I think, 19 innings last year. Of course, the numbers weren't great, but Cheatham is an arm that can throw strikes. So, I think they kind of have that in the bank. I'm sure they don't want to go to that third arm at all. They try to avoid it as much as possible when they have Sawyer Bien and Jeremy Adams doing their thing. So, overall, Gators, I was super pleasantly surprised by this team, and I'm really looking forward to them watching this team all summer because this is a brand new team. Super exciting to watch. Like I said, very difficult stuff. Next series is against Eagles, who are the best team in the league. That's true. It's don't say anything else. The Eagles are the best team in the league right now. So, um, I mean, it might be a series sweep as a prediction, but after this, I think the Gators can definitely walk away with one. And honestly, if they get one win against the Eagles in scope of the Gators, I think that'd be a success. So, um, yeah, Mallards beat the Gators 2-1, but Gators showed a ton of promise. All right, next up on MLW Vault, let's jump into the series preview between the Downtown Diamondbacks and Western Wildcats. What's next? For the third series of the 2024 season, the Downtown Diamondbacks and Western Wildcats face off. A team that has a ton of history in recent MLW era, as these two teams played in the 2021 World Series, which I still stand to this day as the greatest series in MLW history. That is the best 5 games of wiffle ball you've ever seen. Definitely be sure to go watch it, or watch it very cinematically in the 2 Days in September documentary, MLW 30 for 30. Pretty fun. Anyways, so both teams obviously 0-0, starting off their season against definitely two evenly matched teams here as we get into the pre-standings check-in here. Over in the National League with the Diamondbacks in at first place is the Eagles at 3-0. Second is the Mallards at 2-1. Diamondbacks here in third, yet to play a game, and then the Gators in fourth at 1-2. So no matter what the outcome of the series is, unless they get swept, they will be in some sort of tiebreaker with the team, which will come down to intra-league matchups and within the National League. And over on the American League, we have only seen one AL team in action so far, and that's the Magic. So the Predators, Wildcats, and Cobras are all 0-0, with the Magic reigning defending champs at fourth, with an surprising 0-3 record. So that is the standings check-in here. Diamondbacks at third, Diamondbacks at third, Wildcats kind of at second, pretty much tied for first. Let's get over to the expected batting lineups. Now, this one is a little difficult because both teams could definitely go both ways. I'm starting with 4 to 5. I have 4 for the Diamondbacks, 5 for the Wildcats. So for the Diamondbacks, I have Jimmy Knorp at leadoff, Jacob Pishka actually at number 2, with Jonah Heath at 3, and then their rookie Carter Richard at 4. So that is leaving on the bench Trey Flood and Casey Bennett. Because in my mind, Jimmy Knorp is really holding off Trey Flood for that Game 2 pitching start. And then Casey Bennett hasn't really been super valuable at the plate yet, but I could definitely see him getting, a start in the lineup one of the 3 games in the series. So D-backs, I'm going Knorp, Pishka, Heath, and their rookie Carter Richard. And then for the Wildcats, this could also go a couple different ways. I'm going the GOAT Kyle, number 1, at leadoff, with their number 1 overall pick, Patrick Ballman at 2, Nick Saylor at 3, Jackson Pearson at 4, and then either Liam Jackson or Ty Fresnick at 5. I'll probably go with Liam Jackson for now, but I think those two will kind of switch out every game of the series. Maybe Liam Jackson starts in that 5-hole game 1, Ty Fresnick starts in game 2, and then we see who had like the better at bats, whoever starts in game 3. So Wildcats going Kyle, Patrick Ballman, Nick Saylor, Jackson Pearson, and then Jackson or Fresnick. All right. Expected pitching matchups here. We have so far nailed every one of the season. We'll see if we can keep going because this might be a little difficult. Game 1, I'm going Battle of the Classics. Jimmy Knorp versus Kyle Schultz. Screams the 2021 World Series all over again. Then game 2, where it gets a little interesting, I have Trey Flood versus Patrick Ballman. I think Trey Flood is a lock. There's even a chance that Trey Flood might start game 1 for the Diamondbacks, which there's a very high chance. I have him starting game 2 just for now because Jimmy Knorp is their ace still. Then I have Patrick Ballman making his first career start for the Wildcats in game 2. He is a utility player, both a pitcher and a hitter for the Cats. I think he's going to have a really, really big role here, kind of be thrown into the action for the Wildcats. Then game 3 for the Cats, I have Kyle Schultz on the bump, and then I have either Jimmy Knorp or Trey Flood on the Diamondbacks, whoever gets a win or shows out more. Honestly might say Trey Flood gets that start just for me because he might do better than Patrick Ballman, but I think that is going to be really a game time decision for the Diamondbacks. So time to get into the beef of it. What are the series storylines / what's up for grabs in this one? Because there are a ton. Starting off here kind of with the Diamondbacks. First of all, this is the old foes. They meet again. This is their second meeting since the legendary 2021 World Series. From that point, they met in the next season's 2022's opening day, which the Cats took that series. And then this meeting here is their next one. So you could say the Diamondbacks have it recently, or I mean the Wildcats have it recently because they just won it. But of course, the Diamondbacks will have that chip over them all time because they beat them in that World Series. So this is their second meeting since that World Series. Then over on the Diamondbacks, this is a true dynasty season for the D-backs because after, back-to-back World Series wins, the saying is it's not a dynasty until you win 3. So after, their back-to-back World Series wins, they had a sudden NLDS loss, and that really stopped them in their tracks. That was when Shima retired, and that kind of post-game interview when Shima announced his retirement, at that point we were like, all right, the D-backs era is over because for a lot of the 20s here in MLW of like 2020, 2021, it's been dominated by the Diamondbacks. They've made the postseason every single series of this decade, and they've won 2 out of the 3 worlds, or I guess including 2022 out of the 4 World Series. So with that loss of Shima, it was like, all right, it's a new era of Diamondbacks wiffle ball. Their dynasty is over. But I mean, this is definitely, shooting a little bit into the future. But in my mind, if the Diamondbacks say go on to win the World Series this year, in my mind, the dynasty is definitely back because that's still 3 and 4 years, and that can be. They've gone back to back, so they could do it again. So, a dynasty season for the D-backs at the same time, kind of a new era. This really weird in between for a group of 6 guys that has looked a lot different since their World Series win in 2021. So, Diamondbacks dynasty season, first season without Michael Shima, definitely a new era. Kind of bleeding in the two teams together, we got a great rookie showing coming up here. This is the first career series for 3 rookie draft picks that were selected in the recent 2024 draft. Of course, number 1 overall pick for the Wildcats, Patrick Ballman. Like I said, I'm projecting him to have a really big spot in this series. I think he is gonna, be in the batting lineup every single game and start 1 or 2 games on the mound. And then I have, of course, the Wildcats' 3rd overall pick, Ty Fresnick. I think he's going to take a little bit of a backseat in this series, but I could definitely see him working into the batting lineup for these Cats very, very quickly. So Ballman and Fresnick. And then for the Diamondbacks, the 4th overall pick, Carter Richard. He is just a hitter from the sounds of it, so it doesn't look like we're going to see him on the rubber. But he is a rookie nonetheless that Jimmy Knorp was excited for, and that is essentially filling the shoes of Michael Shima, which are, seemingly impossible shoes to fill. But Carter Richard is going to be that guy for the Diamondbacks. And now kind of transitioning over to the Wildcats, this to me feels like a breakthrough season because, every year for the past couple seasons, Wildcats are been the same team. They're going to be a postseason lock. They're going to put together really good series in the regular season. They can, hit their arc of being, a top 3 team in the power rankings, but they have not reached the ALCS in 2 years after this, talking about the decade. This has been a bad decade for the Wildcats after dominating in the 2010s. 2020s, they've made it to the World Series back-to-back years in 2020, 2021, lost both of those, and then now in 22 and 23 have lost to the Preds twice in the ALDS. So after losing that incredible series to the Preds in last year's ALDS, we could definitely tell this team needed a breath of fresh air. And I honestly think Patrick Ballman and Ty Fresnick bring that in. So talking more on Patrick Ballman, with the recent waves of MLW, this, the number 1 overall pick comes with a ton of expectations. Jordan Robles and Grant Miller have been the last 2 number 1 overall picks, and they've been insane. So Ballman is going to have a ton of expectations for him, even if he starts a little bit slow. I'm super excited to see him, as that is everything for the Diamondbacks and Wildcats. Now, my official series prediction, I'm going to go a well-fought series. These are going to be 2 super even teams, but give me the Western Wildcats getting a gritty 2-1 series victory, taking first place in the American League, as that is my official prediction. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in back into this series preview for the Diamondbacks and Wildcats. This is super fun. Be sure to tune into the series coming out Friday on the MLW Wiffle Ball YouTube Channel. It'll be the top link in the description of this episode. Be sure to tune in at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. For me, it's 2 p.m. Mountain Time. So, ladies and gentlemen, Dylan Weissman signing off. I will see you all next time.